So you know how they say the rich get richer? So does the president of the United States, evidently. And many, many voters are not buying it at all.
Did he come to me and my expectations? Absolutely not. Do I think that there might be better candidates coming up in the next election? 100%.
If you had to pick one word to describe how you feel about the president enriching himself this much, what would that one word be?
Confused and a little disappointed. Not what I had hoped things would be when I voted for him. It's frustrating that you see your president getting richer and richer, and the middle class is getting poorer.
Thank you to my colleague Alex Tabbitt for that. Those, by the way, those are Trump voters, people who put the president back in office, and they are not happy about what appears to be yet another example of Donald Trump just grifting off of his presidency. This week, the president disclosed more than $2 billion in income last year. Billion with a B. More than half of the president's 2025 income was through his family's crypto business. The rest of all this cash, it can be traced back to things like the president's real estate assets and foreign-linked investments and deals that blur the line between public policy and private gain. And that might be generous. Trump brushed aside concerns over conflicts of interest, saying he doesn't talk to the people who deal with his money. And when he's asked about what kind of message this massive multi-billion-dollar windfall sends to Americans who might be struggling, he just bragged.
In business, I've had a great career. I don't know if I've had a better career in politics or business, but I had a great career in business.
Let's break this down. In 2024, a year before his return to the White House, Donald Trump reported $622 million in income. 1 year later, just a year later, that figure nearly quadrupled. $1.4 billion of that reported income came from cryptocurrency, an industry that he himself regulates. That includes over $600 million in Trump meme coin sales and nearly $800 million tied to World Liberty Financial, the crypto firm that was co-founded by Donald Trump's sons. It got a major investment when a UAE-linked firm acquired nearly half of the company. The New York Times reports Trump, quote, structured his crypto venture so he always made money on the front end, no matter what happened to the business in the long run. But it isn't just crypto. It is not just crypto. As journalists comb through the thousands of disclosed items, there are many, many red flags. Here's another example. On April 8th, 2025, the president made 327 stock purchases just one day before pausing tariffs. The next day, what happened? The market surged. CNBC called April 9th the third biggest one-day gain since World War II. According to Bloomberg, Trump reportedly made more than 21,000 trades throughout the year, noting, quote, busiest trading days came after announcements of policy shifts, especially around trade. The White House and the Trump Organization reject accusations of conflict of interest. They say the president's investments are independently managed. But it was a pretty busy year for Trump, and it was a lucrative one, too. And to go back to the president's rhetorical question on if he's had a better career in politics or a better career in business, don't take it from me, take it from Fortune. The president of the United States made, quote, more money last year than he ever did in a year as a CEO. And joining me now is Matt Stoller, Director of Research at the American Economic Liberties Project, author of Big by Matt Stoller, one of my favorite Substacks, and co-host of the Organized Money podcast. Matt, it's good to see you. Happy 4th.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy 4th to you.
Thanks, man. I have a feeling you were not surprised by Donald Trump's disclosure, but I am curious what stood out most to you.
Well, I don't think anything. I mean, I actually enjoyed the insider trading. I thought that was the funniest. You know, he bought hundreds of stocks right before he rolled back tariffs. And, you know, the market was wobbling in April of 2025. And then after he changed his strategy entirely, it skyrocketed. And he was apparently buying stocks, or his advisors were, or someone was on his behalf. So I thought that was the kind of funniest. None of this really surprised me or really surprised anyone. That's kind of who he is. He just is a cynical guy who wants to make money.
And I'm sort of sick of hearing that this is unprecedented. because I guess the question is actually just what extent of unprecedentedness it really is. How unusual, put into perspective for us, how unusual is Trump's amassed income to, say, members of Congress or former presidents actually of either party?
Well, I think it is unprecedented. I mean, there's no way to characterize it as there's no comparison because no one's ever done anything like it. But I want to offer some context, which is that this isn't just Trump's doing. This is also a result of the Supreme Court a few years ago saying that the president is above the law. So they had a decision, I think it was Trump v. United States, where they said that if the president is exercising, quote unquote, his core constitutional authorities, he cannot be held liable for what he's doing. So he's doing this kind of thing. I mean, they've also made a bunch of statements about corruption and cases around corruption. They've actually paved the way for him to do this, and for not just him, but many others. But in terms of a political leader, this is actually such a stark difference that it reflects a different kind of political system. It's not clear to me that this is related to the previous 250 years that we've had in America.
One particular example is that he was on the record calling cryptocurrency, I think it was a scam several years ago, and now he's just making an unbelievable amount of money from it. What do you make of this about face that he's done on crypto?
Well, I mean, there's a really significant difference between the first Trump term and the second Trump term. So the first Trump term, I was not a huge fan, but it was a kind of relatively normal term of a bad president. This one is just theft. It's straight up theft. And the crypto stuff, like when we say he made money, let's just be clear. It's not like he invested in a business that then figured out how to sell things for less than it cost to make. This was a transfer of wealth from his supporters, millions of whom bought the Trump meme coin, and then the meme coin dropped 97%. And he and his investors made a bunch of money off, or got a bunch of money. The other one was World Financial, which was, a nothing until he won the presidency, and then the government of Abu Dhabi put billions of bought their quote unquote stable coins. This is just a variant of bribery. So when we talk about making money, I think that's really a euphemism for being a predator, stealing, and bribery. And I'm not super partisan. I'm not just a Democrat who is just, you know this, but this is different. This is a step change in how the Republican Party has functioned. It is an open level of nihilism and cynicism and bribery. I don't mean to be cynical myself, but you had to at least hide it a little bit. And this is just just crazy. This is just like, go off and steal whatever you want. And if we don't respond aggressively and say this is wrong, and the people here, including the Supreme Court, including everybody who overlooked this kind of behavior, if we don't say this is a fundamentally dangerous thing to do in America, then we will not have a democracy anymore. And I don't mean to be overheated, but that's kind of, there's a heat wave. So there we go.
I love an overheated Matt Stoller. And just to put a fine point on it, because you mentioned how much cash came from the meme coin, the Times said, I think 764,000 crypto wallets lost money on the Trump meme coin, but he did ultimately make quite a bit on it, Matt Stoller. It's so great to have you here. I'm glad that you're fired up. Come back anytime. Director of Research for the American Economic Liberties Project. Good to see you.